At first, all she wanted was to be seen, to be heard, to earn a measure of respect in a world that seemed determined to ignore her. It wasn't an unreasonable desire. In fact, it was the kind of ambition we often praise, the drive to rise above your station, to prove your worth. She started small, making smart decisions, working harder than anyone else. Each little victory was a confirmation, a whisper that told her she was on the right path. People started to notice. The dismissive glances turned into nods of acknowledgement. The whispers behind her back turned into words of praise to her face, and it felt good. It felt intoxicatingly good. This initial success was like a key turning in a lock she never knew existed. It opened a door to a room filled with possibilities, and at the center of that room was a new desire, control. Respect was passive. It was given by others. Control was active. It was something she could take for herself. She realized that if she could orchestrate events, if she could steer the conversations and influence the outcomes, she wouldn't have to wait for respect anymore. She could command it. This shift was subtle, almost imperceptible even to her. It began with managing a small project, then a team, then a whole department. She learned the art of leverage, the delicate dance of favors owed and debts collected. She became a master of strategy, seeing people not just as individuals but as pieces on a grand chessboard. Her early maneuvers were brilliant. She outsmarted rivals, forged alliances, and built a reputation for being someone who got things done. No one could deny her effectiveness. But with each calculated move, a small, almost insignificant line was crossed. A promise was bent, a truth was shaded, a friendship was leveraged for a strategic advantage. These were small compromises, she told herself, necessary sacrifices for the greater good, her greater good. The warmth of genuine connection began to feel like a vulnerability. A friend's problem was a distraction. A colleague's success was a potential threat. Her mind, once open and collaborative, started to build walls, calculating every interaction for its potential gain or loss. Then came the first major betrayal. It wasn't a dramatic, cinematic moment with thunder and lightning. It was a quiet decision made in a sterile office late at night. A longtime ally, someone who had been with her from the beginning, stood in the way of a significant promotion. He wasn't malicious. He just had a different vision. In the past, she would have debated, compromised, found a middle ground. But the new her, the her that craved control, saw only an obstacle. So, she used information she knew in confidence, a personal weakness he had once shared with her, and she used it to undermine him. She presented it as a concern for the company's stability, a question of his judgment. It was surgical, it was effective, and it was utterly ruthless. She got the promotion. He was sidelined, his career effectively stalled. When she saw him later, the look of hurt and confusion in his eyes was a brief, sharp sting. She quickly rationalized it away. It was business, it was necessary. He would have done the same to her, she lied to herself. But that night she couldn't sleep. A tiny piece of her conscience had been chiseled away, and the empty space felt cold. This was the template. Power hadn't corrupted her overnight. It was training her slowly, deliberately, and without mercy. Each decision erased another piece of her soul. Each victory demanded a harsher sacrifice. The hunger for control grew, morphing into something larger, something all-consuming. She wanted everything. She wanted not just to be in charge, but to be the only one in charge. The concept of shared power became offensive. The idea of a dissenting opinion became an act of insurrection. Her inner circle began to shrink. Friends who questioned her methods were gently but firmly pushed away. They were liabilities, their emotional attachments a weakness she could no longer afford. Conversations that once flowed with laughter and shared dreams became transactional. She was always assessing, always probing for loyalty, always testing for weaknesses. People were no longer people. They were assets or threats. Her family tried to intervene. They saw the change in her, the hardness in her eyes, the absence of the woman they once knew. They would plead with her to slow down, to remember who she was. Their concern, born of love, was interpreted as an attempt to hold her back, to undermine her authority. They became threats. Holiday gatherings turned into tense interrogations. Loving advice was dismissed as naive sentimentality. Eventually the calls stopped, the invitations ceased. She had insulated herself so completely that the only voices she heard were the echoes of her own ambition. Compassion became a distant memory, a foreign language she no longer understood. An employee facing a personal crisis was an inefficiency to be managed, not a human being to be supported. A community displaced by one of her corporate projects was just collateral damage, a footnote on a balance sheet. The part of her that could feel empathy, that could connect with another's pain, had been systematically starved until it withered and died. She had become an engine of pure, unadulterated ambition, fueled by logic and devoid of heart. Her efficiency was legendary. Her success was undeniable. She built an empire. She reached the pinnacle, the very top of the mountain she had set out to climb so long ago. The crown was finally secure. She stood alone in her victory, surrounded by the trappings of ultimate power, the corner office with the panoramic view, the fawning subordinates who feared her, the immense wealth that could buy anything, anything except what she had lost. She looked in the mirror and a stranger stared back. The eyes were hers, but the light within them was gone. The face was familiar, but the lines were carved by ruthlessness, not laughter. The woman who had started this journey, the one who just wanted a little respect, was gone. She had been consumed, piece by piece, by the very power she sought. This is not a story about a villain. There was no single moment of transformation, no pact with the devil. Evil is often portrayed as a monstrous external force, but sometimes it's a quiet, internal erosion. It's the story of 1,000 small choices, 1,000,000 tiny compromises, each one seeming reasonable at the time. It's the story of what power takes when you refuse to let it go. She got everything she wanted. She sat on her throne, the undisputed queen of her domain. And in the silent, echoing halls of her empire, she was utterly, completely, and irrevocably alone. The cost of winning was the loss of the winner herself. The ultimate power was the ultimate prison, and she was its only inhabitant, haunted by the ghost of the person she used to be. She had the world, but she had lost her humanity. And in the end, she couldn't even remember why she had wanted it in the first place.